a brass pocket watch, engraved with coordinates that no longer exist, set to a time that was declared illegal in 1893. The last watchmaker in Philadelphia who refused to reset his clocks wrote something in his final ledger that made the railroad companies send lawyers to his shop 3 times in 1 week. His name was Samuel Whitmore. He kept solar time while the rest of America switched to railroad time. And in his personal records, discovered in 1923 and immediately sealed by court order, he described what he called the greatest theft in American history. Not of money, of time itself. This is what he documented before they forced him to close. If you're finding this valuable, hit subscribe. I cover suppressed industrial history and forgotten time systems every week. Now let's talk about what Samuel Whitmore actually wrote in those ledger entries. Samuel Whitmore wasn't a revolutionary. He was a third-generation watchmaker from Philadelphia who inherited his father's shop on Market Street in 1871. The shop had been there since 1809. 3 generations of Whitmores calibrating timepieces to local solar noon. That's how time worked in America before 1883. Every city kept its own time based on the sun's position directly overhead. When the sun reached its highest point in Philadelphia, that was noon. In Pittsburgh, solar noon happened 17 minutes later. In New York, 4 minutes earlier. Every town, every city, its own time, based on observable celestial mechanics that anyone could verify with a sundial. This wasn't chaos. This was precision, and Samuel Whitmore's ledgers prove it. The Whitmore shop on Market Street was more than a business. It was a calibration authority. Other watchmakers brought their master clocks to Whitmore for verification. Ship captains consulted his solar tables before voyages. Surveyors borrowed his meridian instrument to verify property lines. The shop's window clock, a massive regulator built by Samuel's grandfather in 1809, was considered one of the most accurate public timepieces in Philadelphia. People set their pocket watches by it. Merchants scheduled deliveries by it. The noon cannon at Independence Hall was fired when Whitmore's clock struck 12. For 74 years, that clock had shown true Philadelphia solar time. And Samuel Whitmore intended to keep it that way. His entries from the 1870s are meticulous. Client names, watch repairs, calibration notes. But starting in November 1883, something changes. The tone shifts. He stops being a shopkeeper and becomes a documentarian. November 18th, 1883, the day the railroads implemented standard time across America, Whitmore writes this: "They came to my shop today, 3 men from the Pennsylvania Railroad. They inform me that as of noon today, Philadelphia time no longer exists. We are now Eastern Standard Time. I asked them by what authority they changed the sun's position. They said by the authority of the General Time Convention. They asked me to reset all timepieces in my shop. I refused." November 20th. "A client came in to have his watch set to railroad time. I explained that I only set watches to true local time, calibrated to solar noon. He became angry. He said his employer requires all workers to arrive by railroad time. I told him I cannot set a timepiece to false time. He left and took his watch to Miller's shop 2 streets over." November 25th. Eastern Standard Time is based on the 5th meridian west of Greenwich. That meridian passes through New Jersey. It does not pass through Philadelphia. We sit at 75.16 degrees west. Solar noon in Philadelphia will occur at 12:24 p.m. on our clocks. We are being asked to call midday something other than noon. December 3rd. I received a letter from the Pennsylvania Railroad Legal Department requesting I cease advertising my shop as maintaining true Philadelphia time. They say it causes confusion. They did not threaten legal action explicitly, but the implication was clear. I will continue to keep solar time. December 10th. Ships at sea still use solar time. They must. Navigation requires knowing the exact moment of local solar noon. A ship's longitude is calculated by comparing local solar noon to Greenwich Mean Time. So the railroads admit implicitly that solar time is true time. They simply want us to ignore it on land. January 5th, 1884. A professor from the University of Pennsylvania visited today. He confirmed my calibration work was accurate. He then told me something interesting. The railroads chose the new time zones not for convenience but for control. Before standard time, every station master kept his own clock set to local solar noon. This made the railroad subordinate to local timekeeping. Standard time reverses that. Now local timekeepers must subordinate themselves to railroad time. The railroads become the authority, not the sun. January 20th. My remaining clients are not sentimental traditionalists. They are astronomers, surveyors, navigators whose work requires true solar time. One surveyor told me he keeps 2 watches, one set to solar time for field work, one set to railroad time for trains. He says it feels like living in 2 different realities simultaneously. February 24th. A strange thing happened today. A man came to my shop and asked me to calibrate his watch to coordinates he provided. He said he was part of a surveying team documenting old meridian markers across Pennsylvania. Stone markers, precisely carved, aligned to true north with an accuracy that should not be possible without modern instruments. He said when they calculate the solar time for these marker locations, the markers are positioned in a grid, exactly 15 minutes of longitude apart, as if someone long before the United States existed had already divided this continent into time zones. He asked me not to mention this conversation, but I have written it here. March 15th. The railroad lawyers returned today, this time with a city official. They informed me that Philadelphia City Council is considering an ordinance requiring all public clocks and commercial timekeeping establishments to display standard time. If the ordinance passes, I will be in violation of city law simply by keeping my shop clock set to solar noon. I asked the city official if there was scientific justification for this ordinance. He said the justification is civic unity and commercial efficiency. I asked if civic unity requires rejecting observable astronomy. He did not answer. They left. April 2nd. I have decided to conduct an experiment. For 1 week I will keep detailed records of solar noon as measured by my meridian instrument, compared to what the new standard time claims is noon. Solar noon in Philadelphia, when the sun is at its highest point, occurred today at 12:24 p.m. according to standard time clocks. This means every person in Philadelphia who checked their clock at actual noon saw a time that was 24 minutes fast. They were told it was not yet noon when the sun itself said otherwise. What kind of society asks its citizens to doubt direct observation in favor of arbitrary decree? April 9th. I have completed my week of observations. Every day solar noon occurred between 12:22 p.m. and 12:26 p.m. standard time, varying slightly due to the equation of time. The equation of time accounts for Earth's elliptical orbit and axial tilt. It causes solar noon to shift by up to 16 minutes throughout the year. This is real astronomy, observable science, yet we are now expected to ignore it entirely and trust that noon occurs when the railroad says it does, regardless of the sun's actual position. This is not a trivial difference. This is 24 minutes per day that every clock in Philadelphia shows false time. Multiply that by every city forced to adopt a standard that does not match its solar position, and you have millions of person-hours per year of time debt. Time that exists but is not acknowledged. May 1st. I received notice today that the city ordinance has passed. All commercial establishments that display time to the public must show standard time by June 1st or face fines. I have 30 days to comply or close my business. I am 63 years old. I have no other trade. But I cannot in good conscience set my master clock to false time. I have decided I will close the shop rather than comply. May 10th. A remarkable thing happened today. A group of my remaining clients, the astronomers and surveyors and navigators, came to my shop together. They proposed a solution. They said I should keep my shop open but remove the clock from my window, keep it inside for calibration work only, set customer watches to whatever time they request, but make clear I am merely a service provider, not an authority on time. This way I can continue my work without running afoul of the ordinance. It feels like a compromise with dishonesty. It feels like admitting defeat. But I am 63 years old with no other trade, and these men have shown me kindness. I am considering it. May 20th. I have made my decision. I will keep my shop open. I will remove my window clock. I will set watches to standard time when clients request it. But I will keep my master clock, the one my grandfather built in 1809, set to true Philadelphia solar time. I will maintain my meridian observations. I will keep my calibration records. I will document every solar noon for as long as I am able. Because someday, someone will need to remember what time actually was before the railroads changed it. Someday, someone will need proof that we once kept time by the sun, not by corporate decree. And my records will be that proof. June 15th, 1884. The window clock is gone. The shop feels naked without it. But I am still in business. I am still keeping solar time for my own records. And I am still waiting for the day when people realize what they have lost. Not just the ability to read noon by the sun's position, but the ability to trust their own observations over institutional authority. That is what standard time really took from us, the confidence to look at the sky and know the time without asking permission from a railroad. That is where Samuel Whitmore's accessible ledger entries end. He continued operating his shop until 1891, when he sold it to a former apprentice who immediately converted to standard time exclusively. Whitmore died in 1894. His personal effects, including his calibration records and meridian observations, were donated to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. The Institute catalogued them but never displayed them. In 1923, a graduate student requested access to study historical timekeeping practices. The Institute's board of directors denied the request and reclassified Whitmore's papers as private family correspondence with no historical value. They remained sealed until 1998, when they were digitized as part of a general archive preservation project. That digital copy is how we know what Whitmore wrote. The original papers are still restricted. But here is the thing. Whitmore was right about the mathematics. Philadelphia's solar noon does occur at 12:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It always has. Every single day since 1883, clocks in Philadelphia have shown noon 24 minutes before the sun reaches its highest point, and nobody notices, because we have been trained to trust the clock instead of the sky. That is what Whitmore understood. Standard time was not just a change in timekeeping, it was a change in authority. Before 1883, anyone with a sundial could verify the time. After 1883, time became something you had to accept from institutional sources, the railroad, the government, the clock tower. You could no longer verify it yourself through observation. You had to trust the system. And once you accept that your direct observation of solar noon is wrong and the railroad's time is right, you have accepted a profound shift. You have accepted that truth is not what you can observe and verify. Truth is what authorities tell you. And that shift, that acceptance of institutional time over observable time, that is what Whitmore was documenting. Not just the theft of 24 minutes per day, the theft of the right to verify reality yourself. This matters now because we have done the same thing again and again. We trust digital time without understanding where it comes from. Network time protocol synchronizes every computer to atomic clocks maintained by government agencies. Your phone displays time provided by cell towers controlled by corporations. We trust GPS coordinates generated by military satellites. We trust systems we cannot verify, built by authorities we cannot question, providing information we cannot independently confirm. And most crucially, we have lost the knowledge of how to verify any of it ourselves. How many people today could determine local solar noon using only observation and basic geometry? How many could calculate their longitude from celestial mechanics? How many could build a working sundial? These were common skills in Whitmore's time. Now they are specialized knowledge. We have been separated from the ability to verify the most basic facts about our position in space and time. We must trust institutions to tell us where and when we are. The watchmaker who kept solar time was not a stubborn old man resisting progress. He was the last person who understood that time is not something institutions give you. Time is something you observe, something you measure, something you verify through repeatable celestial mechanics that anyone can learn. And when institutions take that away, when they make time something only they can tell you, they have taken something more valuable than minutes. They have taken your ability to know truth without permission. That is what Samuel Whitmore wrote before they forced him to stop. And that is what his sealed ledgers still say today.